Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed by the demands of everyday life? Do you long for a sense of calm amidst the chaos? Well, I think we have a person here that's going to help us with just that. We've got author Karen Howard via Zoom on the program today. And this week's Community Spotlight, we're going to be talking about her new book, Upset is Optional. Thank you for coming on the program today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, basically, the entire purpose of the book is insights on how to alleviate stress and anxiety. Can you elaborate on the concept of upset is optional and how it manages to managing anxiety?
Absolutely. So I think it's really important to understand there's a difference between suffering and upset. So there is always going to be suffering in the world. There are horrible things happening. Hurricanes is one of the ones that comes to mind most recently. So that creates enormous suffering in the world. And we do our best to alleviate that by our kindness and our generosity, right? But then there's also this point of what's the difference between upset and, this suffering component. Well, there's unnecessary suffering that you can generate all by yourself in many ways to create this inflammatory kind of response in your own body. And then you think about it, when you get upset, you feel your shoulders tense and your stomach can hurt. These are all things that over time, if they become chronic, can create actual disease. It's kind of like eating inflammatory foods, only consuming them in the form of words.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a stressful time, especially with the current election, which, regardless of political affiliation, I'd say that is also causing stress. It's just so many external factors in the world.
So many external factors. So how do you manage that? And how do you keep yourself in a place of stasis where you're not actually harming yourself or the people around you is the real question. And the 10 practices in the book are really geared towards helping people find that place. And like some practices will resonate more with others. And I have to emphasize too, they are practices. So, just reading them will not necessarily change your life. You have to actually kind of work at it a little bit.
And on that topic, how can our audience manage anxiety using the strategies that you've outlined in your book?
So many good ways in there. I think and we can talk about it just in terms of being able to get along together at this point in time, whether it's at a dinner table or a social event or with family and friends. The language that we use has a lot to do with how the level of upset that we can generate in our bodies. So if you find yourself, even just when you're watching the TV, or like I find myself using words that I don't even say out loud, but I know that when they land in my body and I say them in my brain, it has the same effect. So I have a word wall that I use on a pretty regular basis. And if I'm watching something that is fun, is generating upset in my body, I just switch it up and I will say, that's interesting. Or you kind of nonsensical words that you can use. Like if you have a word that's constantly running through your head, like change it to poppycock. We've seen generations use this strategy before, and it's actually really effective. So that's one good solid way of looking at it. And then there are other ones that come to mind. It's like, if you need to reframe what it is that you are contemplating in your head, or you're having a conversation with people, it's like, what does that even mean? What does it mean to reframe something? It's like, well, look at it this way. And I'll just touch a little bit on the election, because this seems to be the pinnacle of a lot of pent up energy and conversation and experience that we've had. And so we take this and we make this monumental event, and it is a monumental event because it happens every time it happens. It's a monumental event, but it's only one event. We live in a long space of time, if we're fortunate, and we have a lot of history. So this morning I was out running on the mall with my group in the dark and watching the monuments. And I'm thinking, in 1812, they tried to burn down the Capitol and they weren't successful. And still we are here today. We've lived through a lot of challenges in our society, and we'll continue to do so. So if you can reframe that and put it in a larger perspective, sometimes you'll be really successful at building confidence in your body and feeling more light.
And how does setting daily intentions and setting your mood help alleviate the anxiety? We already touched upon reframing your reactions and creating a word wall. What would setting your mood benefit?
So I have a practice where every day I get up in the morning, and if I'm really on my game, before my feet hit the floor, I design my day. I design my mood, and I choose to be peaceful. Now, I may slip in and out of that over the day, but I will always find a way to get back to there. So if you are actually creating what you want to generate in the world in the morning, and it could be happiness, it could be a lot of things that you want to be, just pick one and do it every day for a month. And wear a rubber band, like if you think that you're upset and you find yourself doing that, just snap yourself with it, and it'll kind of wake you up physically to get you back to that place. So it's a very good practice. If you can't do it when you get up immediately and you're out walking the dog, you're having your cup of coffee, just find yourself being intentional in what you want your day to be like, and you'll start to see changes.
So, in your book, you have this idea of serving the 7 generations. Do you mind going a bit in depth into that and its relevance to managing your stress?
Yes, because I really feel like if we're doing work that serves 7 generations, you will always find meaning in your life. So, what that essentially means, and it comes from Native American practices, is that there are 3 generations that have come before you that have essentially helped you get to where you are today. And there are 3 generations that your work and your actions will have an impact on that you may never know in the future. But all we have is this particular life that we're in. So if you wake up and you design your day and you are doing work that serves those 7 generations, you will find yourself more content every day in what it is you do. And I know that because I've actually quit jobs when I've realized, oh, this does not serve. This is not what I want. And I opened up the doors on Organic and Natural Health Association with a fantastic board. And I've been at this for 10 years. And every day I know that I'm still serving those 7 generations. And that's how I do my work. And it makes me feel complete. And it makes me feel like I'm doing the thing that I need to do in the world.
And to continue on that frame of reference,
do you mind giving further examples on how you use these practices from your book in your career?
I think that life is a very complicated and sticky place. And I'll give you a personal story of when I elected to end my marriage of 25 years. I wanted to do that without any upset. That's a challenge. And I managed to carefully navigate that turf so that my children were not living in upset. There was no argument or fighting in the house. There were no attorneys. And to this day, I maintain a relationship with my former spouse where we can all be in the same room together. And for me, that was a clear sign that the practices actually work.
All right. And how can people who feel overwhelmed by the daily stresses of life be reassured that their life matters?
I mean, understand that we all have a place in this world and a job to do. Find your job, find what it is that you love and can contribute to your community and to your family. Doesn't have to be anything that's monumental or, changing the world, but practice those small gifts, giving those gifts on a regular basis. And I think you'll see that people will respond in kind and we'll find ourselves with better community and purpose.
And what is your greatest hope for Upset is Optional?
My greatest hope would be for everyone to find one practice, everyone who reads the book to find one practice that they can gravitate towards, and for them to actually use that practice for as long as they can until it becomes just second nature for them, because then all the practices flow into one another. It's very circular in that regard. So it isn't something that I want people to take in and go, this is too overwhelming, but something in the book will resonate for you. A story will resonate or a specific practice. And I would hope that people would just figure out what that means for them and use those tricks of the trade, as we say, to really hone their skills.
And where can our audience get more information about your book?
You can go to www.upsetisoptional.com. And of course, that will lead you to Amazon where the book is available.
All right. And there any other social medias you want to promote before we wrap things up?
I couldn't tell you the actual handles. I do it all, but it's like a big mystery. LinkedIn, Instagram, the whole 9 yards, and TikTok. But I don't know I don't keep track of it so well myself.
All right. Well, admittedly, we're, some people, we also need to get better at that here at the station. So, all right. Well, it's a brave new world. It's, it's all the social media that's, I guess, social media could, theoretically compound on the stress as well, if you really think about it.
I really think it can. I use it as a communication tool because it's the way people talk to each other now. I'm buried in it like everyone else. I'm not wed to it though. And I come of a generation that just didn't, grow up with, but I highly respect all the people who are really good at it. And I understand that it's a very powerful way of communicating. So I do it and I appreciate it. It's hard work.
You just gotta know when enough's enough, as it were.
Yes, sometimes, yes.
Well, thank you for having this lovely conversation with me. Karen Howard, the author of Upset is Optional. It's available wherever books are sold. And if you ever feel stressed, if you feel that, the current stressors of the world are weighing you down, maybe adopt some practices from this book. It'll allow you to realize, well, upset is optional. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a nice day.
You too.